So before you go thinking that this king is so mean that he would invite homeless people to his wedding feast and then be upset because they did not own a tux, that's not really what is being said here from a story 2,000 years ago. If the king held a wedding feast and invited people, he would have had wedding garments for them. It was customary back then to have extras there so that when you came into a wedding or a big feast, so that you would not be underdressed or you would not feel ashamed. But that's really, well, first of all, as a priest, my instinct is to preach this on the need to go to Mass. But since you're all here already, I'm going to assume that you understand that. But as for this being prepared, or to be prepared as the king is prepared, to welcome other people and to give what they don't have, maybe that would be our focus today. St. Paul says that I know how to live in humble circumstances. I also know how to live in abundance. And he talks about being rich and being poor and well-fed and being hungry. And he says, I can do all things in him who strengthens me. I think my friend's wife actually had that tattooed on her, which I think is, I'm not a tattoo person. I love the quote, but don't go out and get tattooed. But it's a good thing to remember. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. We need to pray harder. We need to be more diligent in our faith for all those people who can't be here. For all those people who maybe when we weren't having public Mass, they got out of the habit of going to Mass, and so it's not a priority for them. And then when the church is open and we are having Mass, we have a lot of people who cannot be here because of age or because of pre-existing conditions. But I'm going to guess, looking around, that the average age here is not under 21. We'll leave it at that. We have to make Mass a priority. And for those people who have fallen out of the habit or don't think that, we need to actually pray for them. Because they need our prayers. And if you're here, it means you have some sense of a priority of this, or at least you have this sense of God calling you to this wedding feast of heaven. That's what the Mass is. It's the wedding feast of the Lamb from the book of Revelation. And if we're here, it means that God has given us special graces. And we've got to share that with others. Now, I'm going to use a bit of time in my homily here to talk about finances. If you look on the open page here of your bulletin, you can see our figures from last week. Now, I don't want to alarm you. I'm calling your attention to this because this is an anomaly. All right, we were almost $3,000 short last week. The week before that, we were actually $3,000 ahead of last year. So we're not in desperate straits. However, all of the money in our savings account is gone. We have money in our checking account, but we don't keep that much in our checking account. And so just as spiritually we need to kind of make up what is lacking. If you are able, and I understand some people are either out of a job or they may be working less hours. If that's the case, please don't lose sleep about not being able to put as much money in the collection basket. But if you are able, if you're like me, and I'm very lucky because one of the side effects of the coronavirus or the pandemic is I haven't been able to spend money on, non-essentials. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay ahead on my Renew and Rebuild campaign. Basically, right now we have our collection, we have the Cardinals Appeal, and we have the Renew and Rebuild campaign. Our collections are down. They're not down by what today's figures are, but they're down. And so if you are able to put money, a little extra money in the collection every week, that would be great. If you're able to put a lot more in the collection, that would be really great. The Cardinals Appeal, for the first time probably ever, we are not going to make our Cardinals Appeal goal, and I'm not worried about that. All right? We're about $10,000 short of what we have to make for the diocese, and we can't worry about that right now. All right? We need money in the collection. And our Renew and Rebuild campaign, right now we are repainting, recarpeting, we are redoing the pews, and we're reconfiguring the altar, and we're redoing the upstairs bathroom in the church. That's all happening right now. That's why we are here in the gym. Although I got to tell you, I'm not rushing to get back into church because we can fit 104, maybe 110 people here in the gym and keep social distance. If we go back to the church, depending on how many people come alone or in families, we can get somewhere between about 50 and 80 people into the church. So I'm not rushing to get back into the church until it's safe. However, with that work going on and the money that we have collected in the Renew and Rebuild campaign, we're going to be a little bit short of where we need to be to pay for the work that is being done in the church right now. Again, what I said earlier is I'm going to pay ahead. I still have $8,000 on my donation. My 5-year donation to the Renew and Rebuild campaign was $15,000. And I still owe $8,000 over the next, I think it's 2.5 years. So because I haven't had as many bills, I'm going to pay that one ahead. If you are able to do that, we would really appreciate that. If you are able to continue giving to the Renew and Rebuild campaign, we would really appreciate that. If you have not signed up for the Renew and Rebuild campaign, please, after Mass, stop and see me, because there are people who've lost their jobs. There are people who are underemployed. There are people who are helping out, maybe family, with money. And so we want to keep keep the place going. So, again, St. Paul says, I know how to live in humble circumstances, and I know how to live with abundance. I've learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. So sometimes we are the ones who are being strengthened by other people in the community, and sometimes we are instruments of God in strengthening other people in our prayers, in our financial assistance. Thank you.